Good morning, ladies. It's Mr. O'Sullivan. Today we're going to be learning about how to factor basic trinomials where our leading coefficient is a 1. So today's learning target is that I can apply factoring techniques by rewriting a trinomial. So what I'm going to ask you to do right now is to go way back when into Algebra 1 land and multiply the following expression using the box method. So please multiply x minus 5 times x plus 6 using the box method. If you can't remember what the box method is, I'm going to draw it out for you. I draw a box, and then I list my terms. So I have x minus 5, x plus 6, and then I multiply. Go ahead and do that right now. You should have gotten x times x is x squared, negative 5 times x is negative 5x, 6 times x is 6x, and 6 times negative 5 is negative 30. So when you go over and you combine your like terms, one of the things we remember from last year is that the diagonals always have our like terms. So my final answer would just be x squared, 6x minus 5x is plus 1x, and my minus 30. That's your final answer. So what we're going to be doing is going from this to this, and we're going to figure out why. So what I'm going to ask you to do right now is, do you notice anything about the terms in your answer in relation to the original expression? Specifically looking at this term and this term in relation to my 6 and my 5. Tell me what you know on Edpuzzle. So if you remember way back when, we learned the diamond method to find out how to factor. So we always put the number that multiplied up top and the number we wanted to add up to down below. So for instance, this diamond is asking me what two numbers have a product of a 10 and a sum of 7. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to list out the numbers that multiply to 10. So I write out 10, I know 1 and 10, and 2 and 5. So I put my 1 and my 10 in here. 1 times 10 is 10, but 1 plus 10 is 11. I want a 7. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try out not a 1 and a 10, but a 2 and a 5. So I'm going to put in my 2 and my 5. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 plus 5 is 7. So if I were to factor this, I would get x plus 2 times x plus 5. So what our goal today is we want to use the diamond process, or the x method, to basically find the two numbers that multiply to our last term and add up to our middle term. So here are the steps of factoring. List the factors of c. So for this expression, I have x squared plus 9x plus 20, and the first thing I want to do is list the numbers that multiply to 20. So the numbers that multiply to 20 are 1 and 20, 2 and 10, and 4 and 5. You can also find these by using your head and by using the factor pairs from 1 to 100 sheet that I gave you last year that I told you not to throw out. So now that we did that, we now go to step 2. Looking at the factors of c, which ones sum basically add up to your middle term of b. So here's what we do. We put our 20 upstairs. We put our 9 downstairs, and we have to ask ourselves, which of our factor pairs will give us a 9? Well, if I try 1 and 20, 1 times 20 is 20, but 1 plus 20 is not 9. It's 21. So now we're going to try 2 and 10. 2 times 10 is 20, but 2 plus 10 is not 9, it's 12. So again, it's not really working, so maybe there's not an answer, but I haven't tried my 4 and my 5, so I'm going to try the 4 and the 5 train. 4 times 5 is 20, 4 plus 5 is 9, bingo bingo, put it all together. My factors are x plus 4 and x plus 5. That's your final answer, and that's how you factor a trinomial where a equals 1. Let's go on to the next part. So again, now we want to factor each of the following expressions. The first thing we do is we identify what we want to multiply to and we want to add to. I want to add up to 7 and multiply to 12. I draw my diamond. I put my 12 upstairs, and that's what I want to multiply to. I put my 7 downstairs, and that's what I want to add to. What you can do is you can list all the things that multiply to 12. Please do that now. The things that multiply to 12 are 1 and 12, 2 and 6, and 3 and 4. What I would like to do now is figure out which of those pairs will give me a positive 12 and an add to 7. So if I want, I could put my 1 and my 12 in here, but I know that won't give me a 7. I can also try my 2 and my 6, but that won't give me a 7. But I can try 3 and 4. So now let's try 3 and 4. 3 times 4 is 12, so that works. And 3 plus 4 is 7, so that works. So to factor x squared plus 7x plus 12, I simply just write x plus 3 times x plus 4. And that's your final answer. Now we've made it a little difficult with number 2 by giving you a number that's negative as our final term. So I want to add up to 1x and multiply to a negative 72. So the first thing I do is I draw my diamond. I put my negative 72 above, and that's what I want to multiply to. And I want to add up to positive 1. So now I list the things that multiply to 72. And the things that multiply to 72 are 1 and 72, 2 and 36, 3 and 24, 4 and 18, 6 and 12, and 8 and 9. I'm going to give you a heads up, whenever you have a 1 that you want to add up to, it's always going to typically be numbers that are 1 away from each other. So the only numbers in our factor pairs that are 1 away from each other are 8 and 9. So I'm going to put my 8 and my 9 in my diamond, but here's the issue. When I multiply 8 times 9, I get positive 72. I wanted a negative 72. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make one of my terms negative. I'm going to make my 9 negative and see if that works. 8 times negative 9 is negative 72. That works. But 8 plus negative 9 is negative 1. I wanted a positive 1. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the sign to be negative 8 and positive 9. Negative 8 times 9 is still negative 72, so we're winning. And negative 8 plus 9, yes, it's positive 1. So pretend that negative 1's not even there. So my factors of x squared plus 1x minus 72 are x minus 8 times x plus 9. Try to do the next example by yourself. So your final answer for this example that you should have attempted by yourself is x minus 2 times x minus 3. The reasoning why is because I want to find two numbers that multiply to a positive 6, but when I add them together give me a negative 5. Well, if I go through this process, I know that negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6, and I know that negative 2 times negative 3 plus negative 3, is negative 5. So my factors for x squared minus 5x plus 6 are x minus 2 times x minus 3. Now for number 4, it's a little different. For number 4, our b squared is actually in our last spot. So what we're going to do is we're going to rearrange this by putting it in standard form. So our b squared goes in front and our negative 16 goes behind. So I have b squared minus 6b minus 16. What I would like to do is I want you to try to factor that now. So in doing this question, you should have gotten b minus 8 times b plus 2. The reasoning why is when I list out my factors of 16, I get 1 and 16, 2 and 8, and 4 and 4. I want to find out what adds up to negative 6 and multiplies to negative 16. So when I go through the motion, I get 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 4 and 4. 4 and 4 will never give me a 6. 1 and 16, never going to give me a 6. So I got to work with my 8 and 2. So when I put my 8 and 2 in my diamond, I get negative 8 times 2 is negative 16. That works. And negative 8 plus 2 is negative 6. That works as well. So I ended up getting b minus 8 times b plus 2. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put a coefficient in front of our leading term. So when I have 2n squared plus 6n minus 108, the trick says, remember, always look to plot a GCF before you factor. I'm going to give you a heads up right now. 99.9% of the time in this class, your GCF for the number will simply be the number in front of your expression. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look to see what number is attached to my n squared. In this case, it's a 2. What I want to do is divide everything by a 2. That's my GCF. So I'm going to write 2 times n squared. 6 divided by 2 is 3, so I have plus 3n. And 108 divided by 2 is 54. You now know how to factor this expression. I want to find out what adds up to 3 and multiplies to negative 54. So I draw my diamond. Negative 54 I want to multiply to. 3 I want to add to. And now I list my factors of 54. So I have 1 and 54, 2 and 27, 3 and 18, and 6 and 9. So by looking at that, I need you to sort of help me figure out what's going to give me a 3. Do you think it's going to be the 1 and the 54, the 2 and the 27, the 3 and the 18, or the 6 and the 9? So now what we're going to do is we're going to play around with it. I think it's going to be my 6 and my 9. So I'm going to put my 6 and my 9 in here. I'm going to multiply them, but I get positive 54. I want a negative 54. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my 9 negative. So 6 times negative 9 is negative 54, so that works. But 6 plus negative 9 is not positive 3, it's actually negative 3. And I want a positive 3. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my 9, make it positive, and make my 6 negative. Well, negative 6 times 9 is still negative 54, and negative 6 plus 9 is now 3. So my factors are n minus 6 and n plus 9. But you have to put your GCF of 2 in front. That's your final answer. Try to do the next one completely by yourself. When completing this problem, you should have gotten a GCF of a 2. So I divide each and every single term in my expression by 2. And when I do that, I get 2 times k squared plus 11k plus 30. I now want to find out what adds up to 11 and multiplies to 30, so I list my factors of 30 and get 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6. I played around with each of my terms, and I ended up realizing that my 5 and 6 were my winning combo. So let's check to make sure. 5 times 6 is 30, and 5 plus 6 is 11. Boom, boom, winner, winner, chicken dinner. So my factors are 2 times k plus 5 times k plus 6. Make sure that you always write your GCF in front. If you don't write your GCF, I will have to gladly deduct a point. Again, ladies, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email myself or Miss Daniel, and office hours are taking place on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays from 9:55 to 10:50. Have a great day.